Welcome to A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Monday, October 27th. Happy Sports Equinox to all of you who celebrate. We have news. We had news in the middle of the radio show, and that news obviously has ripple effects. And that news, of course, is that Roger McCreary, the 2022 second-round pick of the Tennessee Titans, the last John Robinson draft, has been traded to the Los Angeles Rams. The compensation is something that has been debated. The visceral nature of the trade is something that I think a lot of Titans fans are dealing with, even if you weren't super attached emotionally to Roger McCreary or you weren't unrealistic about the situation that the Titans are in. I think that there's been a lot of bad news almost on a every other day basis for this team, that it's just getting to a point where fans are sick of it and you just want to lash out. I understand this, even if the trade is something at the end of the day that really does make sense. So what we're going to talk about is the reaction of Roger McCreary, why it was so emotionally charged, because there is a very good reason why I think a lot of Titans fans had the reaction that they did, even though I think there are plenty of Titans fans who understand that this was the direction you were probably always headed towards. We will also talk about who should be next, and then Robert will wrap us up for a little bit of In Case You Missed It. Share the show around on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch in the comments section if you're so inclined. We would appreciate your participation that way. I want to make sure that I give you enough time to watch Game 3 of the World Series, to watch Monday Night Football, if that is where you are headed, the NBA. Again, we've got sports all over the place, everywhere, and I want to make sure that everybody has ample time to talk about this transaction, but also enjoy a fun night of sports that is about 30 minutes away. So I'll quit wasting time, and we'll go ahead and get into it. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time from the T-Dot Studios. Nobody trashes Tennessee. The Tennessee Department of Transportation reminds you to make sure that you are keeping an eye on all of the great things that TDOT is doing to make sure that we are taking care of the great state of Tennessee. More information here in just a second on how you can get involved. Buy TrueMap Fitness in the Gulch. Go to TrueMapFitness.com for your first workout free. As a Middle Tennessee resident, no workout ever recycled or repeated. TrueMap Fitness is there for you to put you in position to succeed. By Simon Says Nashville, the best men's clothing spot anywhere in the world, as far as I'm concerned, but certainly the best men's clothing spot here in Nashville, Tennessee. SimonSaysNashville.com for more details. And Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer, online at tworiversford.com. All right. So what was that? At about noon, a little afternoon today, the Titans announced that they would be trading Roger McCreary to the Los Angeles Rams. So what was the compensation? For those of you who are unfamiliar, the Titans got a conditional 2026 fifth-round pick. Now, as far as I can tell, I have not seen the conditions around said conditional pick, not seen that reported. The team did not specifically expand on that. We spoke to Mike McCoy today. Obviously, Mike McCoy is not involved in the transaction other than he's the interim head coach of the team. So Mike McCoy wasn't going to be able to shed any light on that. We are efforting an opportunity to speak to Mike Borgonzi next week around the trade deadline. That is obviously something that the organization should do for the sake of the fan base, because somebody needs to get out there and talk about the personnel decisions that are going to be made. The fact that we're even having to press them to get Mike Borgonzi in this situation. I know, to the PR staff's credit, they're trying to set up a time to speak with Mike Borgonzi. He's not an overwhelmingly, media friendly is not the right word, because he's a perfectly fine person to talk to, but this is not somebody who wants to spend his time in front of microphones and TV cameras. Whether that's fair or not, you understand the responsibilities of the position. The general manager should speak at the trade deadline, around the trade deadline, especially given that this should not be the end of the transactions. They should be efforting as many different trades or asset sales on this roster as humanly possible. And the McCreary thing makes sense. But here's the Two Rivers Ford take. The place to start is this on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. What was your reaction to the Roger McCreary trade? Again, the Titans get the 2026 conditional fifth-round pick. The Rams get a 2026 sixth round pick and McCreary. So you give up 2 assets to get 1 asset back. That's a circumstance where you would be trading, it seems, the worst of your 6th round picks for the Rams pick, but the Rams are a Super Bowl contender. They expect to be competitive in their division. Their division is very tight. They expect to make a playoff push. They expect to have a postseason run. That is not favorable for a situation where you are trading assets to playoff teams, especially when those assets are not going to be high value. The compensation, I think, was enough to annoy people, and that can be a part of your reaction. I also think that you don't have to be okay with this trade in the immediate. Will you have to come to terms with it eventually if you're somebody who's pissed about trading Roger McCreary? Yes, because I think that in a world where the Tennessee Titans have been in this shitbird cycle for going on 4 seasons now, you are tired of hearing about rebuilding. You are tired of hearing about asset acquisition. You are tired of hearing about patience over panic. You are tired of losing on a week-by-week basis. I do not fault Titans fans who, even though at some point will have to come to terms with the trade, will look at this and say, this is bullshit. I'm tired of this organization doing things that don't feel like they're smart decisions. I'm not necessarily out on the idea of a contingent of Titans fans, even though I wouldn't necessarily agree with them, that wanted to keep Roger McCreary. He's in a contract year. He's a rental for the Rams. He is going to be paid double digits. He's an above average starting nickel corner. Those guys cost a lot of money in today's NFL. You're in a circumstance where maybe you could obviously avoid Roger McCreary's next contract, but the question then becomes, if you're the organization, do you want to spend money on a guy you didn't draft, even if he's a solid to above average player, or do you want to invest those finances, those resources in other places? Do you want to focus on the organic regeneration of the draft? And do you want to find as many different opportunities, as many different swings as humanly possible? I get it. Roger McCreary is one of the better players on the roster. The roster is also 1-7. So there's a lot of different things to have to process here. And to be honest, I don't think there is a wrong reaction in this circumstance. But your Two Rivers Ford take, what was your reaction to the Titans trade of Roger McCreary to the Los Angeles Rams? How did you feel about it in real time? Do you feel differently about it a couple hours removed? Are you somebody who was never going to be okay with it in the first place? You can give me your answers in the comment section while I tell you that Two Rivers Ford is the South's most trusted Ford dealer. We have talked about things that you cannot trust with the Titans. We have talked about a lack of trust the fan base has with the Titans. What I know that you can trust, because they've been trustworthy for over 4 decades, is the fine folks at Two Rivers Ford, locally owned and operated and non-commissioned for their sales staff, which means you don't feel any pressure on you throughout the course of the car buying experience. That's my favorite part. I have bought 1 vehicle from Two Rivers Ford. I have had a Ford service there when I first moved to Middle Tennessee. I bought my Explorer in 2022, and obviously they've taken great care of it since then. But I love the idea that they've never tried to upsell me when I went through the car buying process. They just gave me a fair price based on financing that made sense for me and a vehicle that made sense for me, given my needs and my specific financial situation. That's the exact same thing they'll do for you, because they're making a paycheck whether they sell you a car that day or not. That's why Two Rivers Ford works. TwoRiversFord.com for more details, just 7 miles east of Nashville International Airport. So your Two Rivers Ford take, what was your reaction to the trading of Roger McCreary? Jimmy Darling on Facebook Live says, just need to burn it down and rebuild the right way and spend money. I assume that's what he's trying to say, and spend money the correct way. Mr. No One on YouTube says, hope they can do 2 more of these. I assume you're talking about trading players. We'll get to the trades that I think that they should at least effort, or the trades that would make the guys that would make the most sense to trade here in just a second. Snoop Dogg, not that Snoop Dogg, I assume, says Titans need to get draft capital for players they're not going to move forward with. So it seems that the majority of you, the reaction on the radio show today was more inflammatory than not. I think people were emotional, and anytime you get bad news or news related to a bad football team, you're going to have a stronger reaction, a more knee-jerk reaction. Belvis on YouTube says, I feel great about it as long as we embrace the youth movement. So let's do it this way, because my reaction was, I get it, but it's still annoying because of what happened before it. What happened before it was, well, let's make sense of the trade first and foremost. They're 1-7, and there's no indicator that they're going to beat the Chargers on Sunday in Week 9. Obviously, the trade deadline is very soon thereafter. I believe the Chargers game is on November the 2nd. The trade deadline is November the 4th. So assuming that they are going to be 1-8 after Week 9, I think it's safe to say that if you're not going anywhere and you've got a handful of expiring assets and you've got a handful of assets that you didn't draft and you think you're going to be able to replace, then I understand the trade. And they've said this since before the season started, right? Whatever you think of Chad Brinker, and Mike Borgonzi just got here, the thing that they have been steadfast in is that they are trying to acquire draft assets. They are trying to rebuild this roster. They have been a part of, well, at least Brinker. Brinker's been here for 3 years. This is his 3rd season with the organization. So Brinker, being at least one of the faces on this, would irritate Titans fans, I'm sure, to some extent, because the idea would be, well, why the hell is this just now getting started? You've been here for 3 years. Why the turn? Or why is it just now that you're going to sit here and rebuild basically every year? Because in 2023, they were not intent on rebuilding, and they didn't trade Derrick Henry at the deadline, and they won 6 games, and they beat the Jags at the end, and Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry and Mike Vrabel got sent off at least with a win in that circumstance. A little bit of feel good. Was it worth what came after that? Probably not, because you would have liked to try to get an asset for Derrick Henry. The owner vetoed the Derrick Henry trade. She wanted people to show up to her stadium. Ownership decision going to be featured heavily in all of this. Then in 2024, they fire Mike Vrabel. They want an offensive-minded head coach. She is convinced, whomever does the convincing of Amy Adams Strunk, she is convinced that Will Levis is worth building around. So they do the opposite of the rebuild, right? They spend all the money they have, basically, because they have a league-leading cap number or cap space available of somewhere in the ballpark of $128 million. Maybe that's what they ended up spending. They might have had a little bit more than that, but they spent almost $130 million in salary cap with Lloyd Cushenberry, L'Jarius Sneed, trading assets for L'Jarius Sneed, right? The opposite of the rebuild. Now, that's Rand Carthon at the point in 2024 where Rand Carthon is now in a situation where he's working as the general manager, but Chad Brinker has been promoted over him as president of football ops, even though they're just kind of still going on with this ruse of Rand Carthon is running the roster. Brian Callahan is here as well. The thing blows up in their face 3-14, right? So the rebuild, or at least the level of competitiveness that they were striving towards, never got achieved. Then Brinker, whether you think he pushed Rand Carthon out, whether you think he maneuvered in a way around Rand Carthon ends up out. Mike Borgonzi in. Brian Callahan is still the coach. And they are talking about at the press conference, listen, we're trying to do the thing that makes the most sense for longevity, for long-term success. And that is a line that makes sense from their perspective. For the fan base is entitled to impatience. Even if it's not logical, you are tired of losing. And now you have a team that's objectively worse in 2025. I think that this is a real problem for Titans fans, because you're just going to check out until they start winning games. And maybe that was always going to be the case. So why bother with the idea of, well, maybe they can mess around and win 5 or 6 games. But you wanted the rebuild to at least be ahead of schedule with the acquisition of Cam Ward. Obviously, it's not gone in that direction. Though, if you wanted to be fair about this, and I will be fair about this because what other choice do we have in this circumstance? If you wanted to be fair, Chimere Dike, Gunnar Helm, Alec Iamaner, Cam Ward are a part of the rebuild on offense. The defense is Kevin Winston. It's Femi Oladejo. Maybe Marcus Harris ends up factoring in. They have Jackson Slater on the offensive line. We'll see if that becomes anything of note. But on offense, you see what they tried to accomplish this offseason. It's just that they're the only ones out there giving you anything of consequence, and the offensive line situation hasn't gone to plan, and the running game is non-existent. And you get, Tajay Spears for 41 yards here or there, but it's not enough to make a difference. And the rookies are having to do the vast majority of the heavy lifting, and Calvin Ridley is nowhere to be found. So you have a circumstance then where, all right, you're not going to be able to fix everything at once. And you look around and you say, okay, the offense, at least we've got positive momentum there. And I do think that they have positive momentum on offense, even if they're not winning games. On defense, obviously, that's going to be the thing that they have to address. And they damn well better not trade Jeff Simmons, because then they would have to go out and find Jeff Simmons. In the same way that they're building around Cam Ward, they should be building around Jeff Simmons, because he's only 28, going to be 29. He's still a productive player. He's still somebody who is worthy of keeping on this roster. The question is Jeffrey going to want to stay here, or are they just going to have to Myles Garrett this circumstance and pay him as much money as humanly possible to be a good soldier the rest of the way through? Because it does feel like he is being wasted. Now, he's dealing with a hamstring right now, so it's not necessarily relevant, but that's another part of this. The question is, how many more assets are they going to sell off? And looking at Roger McCreary, okay, if you don't want to spend the money that it would cost to pay a nickel corner in a window where you're not going to be overwhelmingly competitive yet, does it make sense to move McCreary? Yes. I think it's fair to have a little bit of nitpicking around the compensation, but I don't know what other offers they were getting. If that was the best offer they felt like they could get, fine. If they failed in the negotiation process, as has been alleged by the internet, that's a bad look. I think that they are convinced as an organization that their front office, their new front office, is capable of handling this process moving forward. I would understand if you're a Titans fan and you don't trust anything about this organization right now, because there's no reason that you should. They've given you no reason that they should. Until you see proof of concept, it's going to be impossible to trust them. So that's a tough spot to exist. Now, it's also a tough spot to say, well, just because they've screwed this up for 4 years, does that mean exclusively that they'll never get it right again? Probably not. But it is fair to have that healthy skepticism. So at the end of the day, the trade makes sense. Now, the annoying part of this is, and this is the shit that's really annoying, is that they traded Jarvis Brownlee before they traded McCreary, because the Brownlee thing doesn't make any sense. The Brownlee trade, where you get back a 6th from the Jets and you send Brownlee and a 7th to the New York Jets. Again, the Jets are not doing anything of great consequence. I know they got their first win of the season. But the Brownlee thing is what makes it annoying, because in that specific situation, you're saying, okay, they trade Jarvis Brownlee, stock up Roger McCreary. That's the only thing that makes sense, because you know who's the only corner under contract in 2025 or 2026? I'll tell you here in just a second. I'm sure your reaction will be the same as mine is. Right after I remind you that nobody trashes Tennessee. TDOT is here to remind you that nobody trashes Tennessee. They go above and beyond, the Tennessee Department of Transportation, to make sure that we are taking care of this great state, that they are taking care of this great state. And they have so many opportunities, so many different opportunities for you to participate in that. You can be a part of the solution and littering and make sure that nobody trashes Tennessee. And if you're ready to be rewarded for making sure that nobody trashes Tennessee, go to nobodytrashestennessee.com to join and become an NTT Trash Master. That's a Nobody Trashes Tennessee Trash Master. I'm going to do this myself because I spend a great deal of my time picking up litter in my neighborhood. I know that sounds self-righteous and whatever, but I genuinely enjoy picking up trash, and I hate that my neighborhood deals with a fair amount of litter. You may be the same way. So you can go to nobodytrashestennessee.com to join and become an NTT Trash Master and be a part of the solution. There are reasons that they will go above and beyond to make sure that you have ways to participate if you want to take care of this great state. NobodyTrashesTennessee.com for more details. I would be very grateful if you did that, not because they're a partner of ours, but because I love when I see people, without being prompted, out there with their little grabber tools like I am, with their trash bags, picking up trash. It makes me very happy. Chip Clark says that's why you cover the Titans, because you like trash. Yes, but unlike the trash in my neighborhood, I can't put them in a bag and throw them away and never think about them again. But that's what the money's for. Anyway, nobodytrashestennessee.com. So, who's the only cornerback under contract in 2026? L'Jarius Sneed. Now, The most annoying version of this is that they traded Brownlee, they trade McCreary, and in some bizarro world, Snead ends up on this roster in 2026. That would feel like malpractice to me. They do technically have him under contract for 2 more years. They can get out to next year is the first opportunity for them to get out from under the Snead contract. They would eat $8 million in cap if they did it. Again, we don't know that he's done for the season. He's currently on injured reserve. He has to miss 3 more games, so 4 more weeks because their bye is included. So the next opportunity, if Snead, isn't done for the year, would be a circumstance where you would see him. The first opportunity that he would have to play if he was healthy was November the 30th. It's a long ways away. So this circumstance becomes more annoying when you think about the Brownlee trade. That made absolutely no sense. Nothing they say about the Brownlee trade makes any sense whatsoever because it's just not factually so. And frankly, it's an indictment of the coaching staff. If they had any say in the ability to move Jarvis Brownlee, and I don't think that it was a coaching staff move. In fact, I'm very confident, having had several conversations with people, that the Titans front office would have preferred to play Jalen Armour-Davis, and that's gone swimmingly well. So you've got a handful of situations where Sam Womack and Jalen Armour-Davis, they're not under contract in 2026. Neither is Darrell Baker Jr. So you're talking about basically having to rebuild your entire cornerback room at this point in time. Marcus Harris, is it Boren, says, I thought Marcus Harris had a 4-year deal with the Titans as a rookie. He does, but he's a defensive back, special teams player. He's also a 6th-round pick. Like those guys, you see 6th-round picks who get cut in their rookie training camp. Now, this is not a roster, obviously, where you can afford that. So, yes, you are correct. He's listed technically as a defensive back. He's not exclusively a corner, though that is the primary position where he sees limited reps. He is somebody who played safety and corner in college. So, yes, you have a defensive back who can play corner, theoretically, in 2026 in Marcus Harris, but they're not playing Marcus Harris right now. So what does that say about Marcus Harris? Jalen Armour-Davis and Darrell Baker, and Baker's obviously in the concussion protocol and all these different things. But you've got a circumstance where, like Marcus Harris is that's not, they're not building around Marcus Harris in their secondary. You know what I'm saying? They're not even playing him right now. Fairly or unfairly, you can think about what you will. So that's the annoying part of the trade is Brownlee, is Snead, and then McCreary, even if McCreary makes the most sense. Now, the question becomes, okay, who should be next? And they have damn near 30 players who will either be unrestricted free agents in 2026 or restricted free agents. They will have first right of refusal on. I will get to the names, the most tradable names on those list of, I think it's 28 or 29 at last count on SpotTrack, of players who will be on expiring deals in 2025 here in just a second, right after I remind you that the Primetime program, also the question for you guys, who should be the next Titan traded? Because there should be a great many Titans traded at this point in time. Who should be the next Titans traded or Titans player traded? Let me know in the comment section, and we will discuss at length together. So as you look at the expiring deals and the guys who will be unrestricted or restricted, who is the most tradable asset, or who are the names that immediately come to mind? I'll tell you that here in just a second, right after I remind you that the Primetime program is made possible by Simon Says Nashville, where you go to dress better. If you can't feel good about your football team, you can at least look good. In the meantime, Simon Says has so many cool things on offer that, like I tell you all the time, you will not find anywhere else, certainly not in the city. I would venture a guess to say that you won't find anything like this online. Hell, you may not even find the kind of stuff that they have at Simon Says anywhere else in the country, because they are so thorough about the kind of items that they get and the kind of looks that they present to you. And you're not going to see the same stuff every time you go in there. That's the cool part of Simon Says. Exclusive looks for you exclusively every time you visit them. SimonSaysNashville.com for more details today. The best men's clothing spot in Middle Tennessee. All right. So who's the next name that comes to mind at this point in time? Also, I'm seeing a great many notifications about Roger McCreary. Apparently he has tweeted a statement and misspelled Amy Adams Strunk's last name. I will read this for you quickly. What a journey it has been. To each and every one of you, thank you for your passion, your loyalty, and your time. I owe a debt of gratitude. This is courtesy of Roger McCreary's Twitter account. Gratitude to the Titans organization, coaches, my teammates, and especially the fans for pushing me to be my very best, both on and off the field. He writes to the Struck family. Obviously, he means the Strunk family. Thank you for the opportunity to play for the Tennessee Titans. Running out of the Nissan Stadium. There's several misspellings or several grammatical errors in this. Running out of the Nissan Stadium will forever be a core memory for me on game days. As I turn the page on this chapter, I take with me the love and spirit of Nashville. Thank you for everything. So well intended, even if it's grammatically incorrect. Yeah, anyway, so well done by Roger. Obviously, that's the right thing to do. Roger McCreary, a good soldier the whole way through, to his credit. And in fact, Roger McCreary is somebody who spoke. We just talked to Roger about trade deadline rumors in the locker room last week.
I'm finna always there. I mean, up for the challenge, to get back outside, playing inside. I just look at it as, back in the days, when I first started here, my rookie year, playing both, even my second year. So it's just about getting back used to it, playing outside, knowing how people attack me outside versus inside, and just really knowing my opponent is.
How different is it, the way people attack you?
I mean, slides more quicker, I would say. Gotta be in the run fits more in the inside. Personal outside is more one-on-ones, I would say. Outside releases, like more routes, I would say. In the nickel, it's just about knowing my opponent and who I'm going against.
What's it like for you this week with some of the Colts playmakers and maybe having that little shift in your position in the secondary?
Yeah, I mean, I've been going against these guys for a while. They have Michael, they have Josh, they have 14, they have Alex, yes. They have all the guys, and I just feel like we played against them. We know what type of player they are and stuff, and they're not going to change. They playing good, so they're not going to change anything going against us. We just have to learn from our mistakes from last game and just try to play and start fast.
Has an IR like Snead just kind of become routine for you guys, the way you've had to just rely on next man up so much?
I mean, it's a part of the game. I mean, I say guys not going to play the whole season. Injuries happen and stuff. And exactly what happened last year, guys stepped up like Bake. So we have guys like Bake and Mark that step up and play right away. So it's nothing new to us. It's part of the game. Next man up, for real.
How do you handle the trade deadline rumors this time of year?
What trade deadline rumors?
Your name's coming up quite a bit when people are talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't be on the internet, and I'm trying to pay attention to that. That's internet, so them guys just say they know whatever, but I haven't heard much and stuff like that. I just try to focus on next week, get the win. And that's what we need is a win, so that's the last thing on my mind.
When you're a guy playing on the left.
So that is Roger McCreary, who may have benefited from paying attention to the internet, because obviously, whether Roger was not aware, I'm sure his representation made him aware that it was a possibility. And we talked to Draymond Jones today in the locker room. At the podium. They usually send a couple of players out to speak to us on Mondays. Players who have had good games. Draymond Jones and Chimere Dike were the two today. And Draymond Jones, who's been in the league for quite a bit of time at this point, said, we don't really talk about the trade deadline in the locker room. Obviously, we're aware of it. Twitter will try to force feed it to you, even though I'm just on there for funny videos and stuff like that, which I thought was a good line by Draymond Jones. But either way, the value of the trade is questionable, but now you have to continue to find value, because you're 1-7 going to be 1-8 before the bye. So almost 30 players, as I mentioned, will be unrestricted free agents or restricted free agents in 2026. The deals that make sense, that are expiring deals for the Titans to move: Jihad Ward, Sebastian Joseph Day, Kevin Zeitler, Chigakonkwo. Those guys make the most sense. Like, those are guys who, whether they would start on other teams or be good depth pieces for other teams, they make the most sense to move. Jihad Ward, Chig, Sebastian Joseph Day, and Zeitler. Now, there's also guys on multi-year deals who, if you were trying to get out from under some of these contracts, you would love to move. Calvin Ridley. Tony Pollard, again, I don't know what to do with the Tony Pollard situation. I wish they would send him somewhere for Tony's sake. I think he's in such a bad spot here and doing his damnedest to be a productive player, but they're just not getting it done. So Calvin Ridley, Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears, who if I was a team, I would certainly be calling about, with 2 years left on his deal. And then the other part of this, which I think would send the fan base spiraling in vibe similar to Jarvis Brownlee, The other player who I would be calling about is Tavondre Sweat, because I think that if you gave the front office truth serum, that they would tell you that there is a mild level of frustration with Tavondre Sweat in the idea that they, have to poke him and prod him all week long to get him to do the things that Tavondre Sweat needs to do, but that on game day he's ready to play, and some players are just like that. So it's not like, a malcontent or this guy should have never been a second-round pick. Like, he's clearly a high-level player when he's motivated properly, but the guy that drafted him, that was going to be tasked with managing him and Brownlee and Ridley and all these other players, the guy that could relate to them, right? Rand Carthon, they fired. So I think that Sweat is a player that I would be calling about. And I think, depending on the value, if Tavondre Sweat got traded, I wouldn't be stunned. Even though I would disagree with that, I wouldn't be stunned. Now, which of those players makes the most sense for a team to acquire? I would look at Chigakonkwo, another player on an expiring deal, as a rental. Again, the value would not be overwhelmingly great. I think a lot of people would be frustrated by it, but I think Chig could be productive on another team, depending on what that team's tight end utilization is. Obviously, Chig is a very specific kind of player, but Chig makes the most sense there. Ridley's contract is still not great. Sweat and Spears, you would be losing value on, because a second-round pick in Sweat and a third-round pick in Spears, you're obviously not going to recoup that value. And then the rest you're just trying to sell for parts, because you're trying to get as many draft picks as humanly possible. Zeitler is the one that I would be the most hesitant to trade, because I don't want to give any reason for Cam Ward to take any unnecessary hits. I don't want to do any damage to that offensive line, even if I know I've only got Zeitler for a year, and he is on a one-year deal. Jamar Williams says Simmons, talking about Jeffrey. He's pushing 30. Get what you can get for him, especially if you can get a first-round pick for him. No, that's incorrect. That's completely incorrect. That's nonsense. You do not trade Jeffrey Simmons. If you trade Jeffrey Simmons, I will verbally burn that organization down. If you trade Jeffrey Simmons, you have to go find a Jeffrey Simmons. Oh, Arden Key, by the way, also on an expiring deal. Maybe Arden is an acquirable asset. Arden also working through some health stuff. I'm sure they're trying to get him as healthy as humanly possible for somebody potentially to call about Arden. So Arden or Chig or Jihad Ward would make the most sense. Ward, though, is the better player between the two of them. You do not trade Jeffrey Simmons. There is not, every player has a price. So if you're offered 3 first-round picks for Jeff Simmons, okay, all well and good. But you are a fool, and I'm not like attacking you, Jamar, so don't feel like I'm personally attacking you. But because he says, I like the defensive tackle out of Clemson. I don't care who you like. You know what I'm saying? That player then has to immediately be Jeffrey Simmons. You're not going to find, he's the best defensive tackle in football this year. So you're telling me that you would be, I like the defensive tackle out of Clemson, having no idea. I'm sure John Robinson liked the defensive end out of Clemson, and Kevin Dodd. How'd that go for you? That's nonsensical. You have to go find another Jeffrey Simmons if you trade away a Jeffrey Simmons. There's reason to believe you can replace Roger McCreary or Jarvis Brownlee or Calvin Ridley or any of these other players. We're talking about the player who is currently, and I know he's missing time with a hamstring or just missed some time with a hamstring, but he's currently the best player at his position. Now, you're going to have to pay a premium for that. And if you're going to keep him, because if I was Jeff, I'd say, get me the hell out of here. I would want to be traded if I was Jeffrey Simmons. Jeffrey Simmons has not taken that approach. To his credit, he has been steadfast in saying he wants to play for this organization. Why on earth he would do that? I can't even begin to imagine. But you are talking about the heart and soul of your football team, the one guy you can count on every damn day to show up and bust his ass at 110% every day, Jeffrey Simmons. No. Unacceptable. There is always a price. So I'm not going to say there is no scenario in which you trade Jeff, but I'm saying for a first-round pick, no, because that first-round pick may turn into Jeffrey Simmons. But more likely than not, it's not going to turn into Jeffrey Simmons. And also, who are you trading with? Who's trading for Jeff Simmons? A playoff contender. Where's that playoff contender going to pick? At the bottom of the first round. So Jeff, who you only got at 19 because he tore his ACL that February, you're not going to get into the Jeffrey Simmons caliber of player if you're trading Jeff Simmons to the Rams are an example that just happened, or the Vikings called about him last year. Maybe the Vikings aren't on a playoff approach, but you understand what I'm saying. Like, if you trade Jeff to a postseason contender, you are going to get a low first-round pick for Jeffrey, and that is not acceptable. That is not acceptable. Jamar Williams, again, arguing for I get what you're trying to argue, but you're incorrect in the idea that he's never even had a double-digit sacks in his career. Jamar, I don't want to accuse you of not watching these games, but he creates for others. He is who the defense is schemed around. Jeffrey Simmons may not get credit for Harold Landry sacks, but Jeffrey Simmons creates sacks for Harold Landry. Jeffrey Simmons creates opportunities for other players. It's not just about his individual box score scouting. Like, if you're going to make an argument, don't do it based on box score. That's just dumb. Like, that's the lamest, most low intellect version of an argument that you could bring to the table in this possible conversation. And I personally I'm not attacking you, Jamar. I swear to God. I'm trying to point out that you sound in as respectful of terms as I can say, because I'm not going to blow a gasket on you. Corey D. Williams literally says, gasket blow in 3, 2, 1. I'm not going to do that unless he keeps, submitting dumb arguments. Landry sacks were mostly cleanup sacks. Yeah, because Jeff Simmons is okay. Stop making dumb arguments, because I'm not gonna entertain this. We're not gonna do this. He says, I've watched all the games. Okay, well then you're just uninformed about how this player impacts the rest of your team. We'll leave it at that. Zen, namaste. I'm not gonna get mad. I'm not gonna yell. I'm not mad at you. I just need you to watch the tape and improve. You had a bad show. Bring it stronger next week or tomorrow. Well, I'm not on tomorrow. Whenever. Just do better. You're very, very silly argument. Okay, so don't trade Jeff unless it's just the offer that you could not possibly find under any circumstance, unless you're just holding a team hostage or robbing a team blind, which we assume is not going to happen in this situation. So let's move on, because I don't want to spend more time getting angry at dumb comments. Anyway, the rest of this is going to be curious to see how it plays out. We've obviously got a few more days for them to make transactions. I would assume that Roger McCreary is not the last to go. I don't think that you should take any offer on the table for the rest of these players that we're talking about, but I do think that you need to move as many of these guys as humanly possible at this point. All right, Robert, in case you missed it, what do you got? Right after I remind people that the Primetime program is made possible by True Math Fitness in the Gulch, go get your workout in. Go get the best workout in. If you're frustrated about your football team, go commiserate with fellow Titans fans. Worth Campbell is a diehard Titans fan. His family has had a suite at Nissan Stadium the entire time that it's been the Coliseum or Adelphia Coliseum or LP Field, now Nissan Stadium. Diehard Titans fan. He will work out with you. He will work through your frustrations with you, and he will help you achieve your fitness goals. I've seen him post many times today on social media about his irritation with his favorite football team, as I'm sure many of you have as well. TrueMathFitness.com. Your first workout is free. Okay, Bert. Hello.
Hello. I'm perturbed.
Why are you perturbed?
I'm eternally perturbed, but I will put my perturbing aside to address Major Keys, who said, I didn't like how Bert went off earlier because us Fountains didn't feel like we got enough out of the trade. Apologize, Bert. Major Keys, you're in a lot of these shows. You're in Primetime. You're in the radio show. We really appreciate you listening. But I will not apologize for my tone, because And if you guys just want me to shuck and jive and just make jokes and be a funny dude, I can totally do that. But I feel like we all listen to this shit to get like somewhat smarter, or at least a better understanding about why this is happening, what this is happening, what am I seeing. And I felt like I did a pretty good job laying that out. So maybe I was a little hot about it, but I think that's what makes me me. So I will not apologize, but I do appreciate you watching all the time.
I think you handled that very diplomatically.
Hey, no.
I think it was just, how when any of us get animated and our voice starts to, get a little pitchy and we get higher and higher. I think the elevated tone is what makes people more combative. But I thought you laid that out as cleanly as humanly possible in the midst of the chaos that was the trade happening in the middle of the show. You did a good job.
I appreciate that. So instead, we'll talk about what's the best job in college. And I think the best job in college is the one that one man takes. The one man who should be hired for the LSU job. That's Ed Orgeron.
Every damn AD in America is looking for a football coach right now. So what are you looking for? What are you looking for in a job? What are you looking for in your next challenge?
For me, I want somebody, I want to fit. You know what I mean? I'm not going to take anything, and not anybody's going to take me. It may be a head coach job. It may be a defensive line job with someone that I believe that can win a championship. I just think that, when I do interview, if I interview, I want them to want me as much as I want them. I'm a championship coach, and I'm going to bring a winning program to their university. I can recruit. I can do those things. I've proven to do it. I'm young, man. I'm 64 years young. I'm ready to go. But
man, I don't give a shit, dude. I'm about to cry. I want him to be the next coach of the Titans. Get Ed Orgeron. Dude, that would just be fun, man. Give him a lifetime contract, and if they suck, they suck. But if you want a culture, you don't think everybody in that building's going to love that guy and fight for that guy? Get in a bar brawl for that guy? Shoot somebody in a car dealer parking lot for that guy? Spit on a Hall of Famer? Allegedly. I wasn't referencing anything that's happened. All events that were depicted are fictional in nature.
We should have like a banner that runs like the ESPN ticker at the bottom. It should say, no, just ignore anything that these two say for the duration of the show. Thank you for your time.
I just love him. I don't know how you couldn't. If that guy came in your living room to be like, I want your son to come play for the Tigers. You're not going to say no to that guy. I trust that guy. He's not going to let my son. He might let him drink, but he's not going to let him drive home. He's a cool dad. You guys want to go hunt alligators?
Are you forgetting the investigation that was done at LSU about cover-ups of alleged domestic violence incidents?
No, all I'm looking at is the fact that he got blackballed at LSU because he hit on some donor, some philanthropist, some academia participant's wife. And they went to their hoity-toity meeting and had to say, I don't like the way that I don't know how fancy Cajun people. I don't like the way that Coach Orgeron tried to talk to my wife. I am a Southern debonnaire lawyer, and it was disrespectful. He spoke to my wife without his shirt on. Have you seen his body? That's why he got canned.
Oh man, pretty good.
And they sucked that last year. But look at all he did. He's like who's the Arkansas coach that just got fired? He's like the cooler Sam Pittman. He's the buff old Sam Pittman. And you made a much more reasonable suggestion, like just make him the associate head coach. Sure, I guess. No, to the Titans. You made your point pretty clear today. Associate head coach Ed I don't know how anybody could be upset about that.
Gruden head coach, Orgeron assistant head coach.
Don't you tease we were just talking about expectations, just talking about setting things up fairly, and you're gonna go Gruden. Headset has been through hell, man.
That's the new headset. Somebody said I could have sworn Bert got a new headset. Yeah,
I did. I don't know what to tell y'all. I take them off and I'll sit them somewhere and I'll accidentally step on them. And you ever looked up sure, I could get like an actual mic set up, but that's expensive. Have you ever looked up a gaming headset? These things are like $60. I got a fiance. I got a fish. I got 2 cats. I can't afford that shit. So I tried to, if you'll notice the white spot, I tried to super glue this back together. And that shit did not work. My big head broke that so quick. So anyway, sorry about the headset. If you guys want it, I was about to beg for money. I'll be okay. I'll get a headset somehow. All right. Love y'all. Bye.
Unbelievable. All right. That's going to do it for us tonight. Speaking of college football, Josh Pate is on the radio show tomorrow. Somebody said Bill Buck for it. The new headset. I mean, maybe for Christmas, but how do I know he's not just going to step on that one too? Unbelievable.
How do I know he's not just going to sell it for drugs?
That's how I feel about you most days, in fact. Yeah. I'm fine giving money to homeless people, the unhoused community. I'm more worried that if I give Robert money to do anything at all, that he's going to go and buy drugs. Anyway, But I suppose that concern is fair of me too. That's going to do it for us tonight. We appreciate participation, only in states where it's legal, of course. Thank you all for entertaining us and keeping us entertained. Thank you all for sticking with us because, again, in a 1-7 season, there are very few reasons for you all to show up the way that you do. But we all collectively really appreciate that you continue to support these shows. Hang out with us tomorrow on the radio show. Josh Pate is at 10:20, if I'm not mistaken, Robert. We'll also have Jason Fitz at 12:20. So we'll look forward to that. 10 to 1 on 104.5 The Zone. We will see you there. Like the video on the way out the door. And if you get enough likes, maybe I'll buy Bert a new headset.
I mean, if we keeping a buck right now,